This is Formula One.
What is Formula One? To most of us, it's the greatest sport in the world, and we revel in the on-track battles between the drivers and the teams. We have our favorites and we cheer for them every race weekend, and afterwards we argue about the rules, about the incidents, about the strategy. It is highly emotive, but Formula One is big business. Besides the Football World Cup and the Olympic Games, which by the way only happen every 4 years, Formula One has the biggest TV audience in the world. An estimated 500 million people tune in every Sunday race to watch Formula One. 500 million. That's a big amount. Everything about Formula One is expensive. Just accept it. It just is. Of course, since this year, 2021, we now have viable cost caps for the team so that we hope that things will be more competitive in the future as opposed to 1 or 2 or 3 teams taking most of the spoils. Will 2022 and the new regulations give us that wish? No one knows. Just as no one knows the true costs of hosting a Formula One race. On my WhatsApp channel, there has been wonderful debate about hosting costs for a Formula One race, etc. And the debate has leaned towards the possibility of Formula One returning to South Africa. This has led to great excitement for South African fans. Don't forget, South Africa has an incredibly rich motorsport history, an incredibly rich motorsport culture across all of our people. Is it possible for South Africa to host a Formula One race again? Before I answer that question, let me explain how F1 business works. A few years ago, I bought the F1 Money Business Formula One book, and I bought the Formula One Money Sponsorship book. Each of these books were over 200 pages each in A4 size. So, there was a lot of reading and understanding to absorb. To go through every detail in this video would take an age. So I'm going to try and simplify it so it makes sense to myself and hopefully to you as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, Formula One is about the greatest sport in the world. But to a country hosting a Formula One race, it is about tourism. No other sport sees an influx of media and fans traveling to Formula One destinations. That is a fact. Now let me explain how Formula One works. Formula One Group is owned by Liberty Media nowadays. For many years, it was run and controlled by Bernie Ecclestone, as we well know. Bernie Ecclestone devised an agreement between the teams and in those days Formula One management called the Concorde Agreement. This agreement has been adapted over the years, but it's still the most important document in Formula One. It is very secretive. However, things leak over the years. The teams get paid by Formula One Group via the details within the Concorde Agreement, i.e. the TV monies, the distribution. The hosting and organizing of a Grand Prix in a country is negotiated by the Formula One Group and a suitable promoter and country. This document is also very secretive, but leaks do occur as well. One of the clauses in this agreement, which was leaked in 2013 after Valencia was cancelled, states that promoters shall not at any time following execution of this agreement announce, publish, or disclose to a third party the existence of this agreement. So what does hosting a race cost? Formula One makes its money from broadcasting fees or television commercial rights, radio broadcasting fees, advertising and sponsorships, the paddock club, race promotion fees, all fees for hosting races, as well as merchandising. These are the primary sources of Formula One revenues and how Formula One makes its money. In a nutshell, Formula One owns just about everything besides ticket sales. Think about that for a moment. They own everything besides ticket sales. Every single Formula One race on the calendar has government support, except Silverstone. Every single race. Every single Formula One host race is responsible for the fees negotiated with Formula One Group, except one. Monaco pays no hosting fee, and Monaco also has the rights to trackside advertising. Why? It's an agreement. Whereas the Olympic Games and the World Cup soccer tournaments, Formula One offers a World Cup 22 to 23 times a year. It is that big. Anybody who's been to a Grand Prix internationally knows the fanfare around it. It is an occasion. It is something to behold. It is like a World Cup every single race weekend. Each circuit pays Formula One a hosting fee. On top of that, F1 owns the rights, the merchandise, the radio broadcast rights, the trackside advertising rights, as well as the paddock club hospitality rights. Because of this, ticket prices are usually pretty expensive. The only way a promoter can make any money realistically, besides having a few corporate hospitality suites not linked to the paddock club, is via ticket sales. One of the new races in 2021 is Saudi Arabia. A number of $100 million has been reported that Saudi Arabia will pay per year for the next 10 years to host the races. That's $1 billion. This could well be true, but no one really knows. And there could be mitigating circumstances that F1 has found to justify that fee. It is widely believed that those in the know that hosting fees range between $15 million up to $40 million per race per year, and these fees escalate yearly. There is also the decision regarding street circuits and purpose-built circuits. The costs actually work out similar over a 10-year period. The one benefit of a street circuit is that the promoter just takes everything down and sets it up again the following year. The owner of a purpose-built circuit has to try and maintain and keep that track alive during the 12-month period before the next Formula One race. Most circuits across the world manage to do this, but in the past few years, we saw the Indian Grand Prix and the Korean Grand Prix fall off the calendar as these countries have little or no motorsport culture, and the tracks lay dormant. It's sad, but true. Both the Indian Grand Prix and the Korean Grand Prix had their races cancelled as they could no longer pay the hosting fees. F1 is brutal, and make no bones about it, there are plenty of countries lining up to host a race. That we understand that the cost of hosting a Grand Prix is hugely expensive, and that F1 owns all of the rights. Now we get to why ticket prices are so expensive. Even with government support, Formula One is still expensive. Now let's look at some of the 2021 ticket prices. Formula One British Grand Prix, 2021 United States Grand Prix, which is this weekend, and the Saudi Arabian Formula One Grand Prix towards the end of this year. Just look at those numbers. Cheapest price in the United States, $320. Formula One Grand Prix, yes, these are great corners to sit at, but your cheapest is $440. In South African money, that is 9,000 Rand. And if you look at Saudi Arabia, look at that. The price range from nearly $600 to $4,000. That is mind-boggling if you sit there and think about it. $4,000 in our money is close to 55, nearly 60,000 Rand. It is sold out, by the way. Whew. For me in South Africa, these numbers bring tears to my eyes. But all is not lost. There are always specials, which include flights, tickets, transfer to the circuit. A bit more on that in a while. It might be the biggest conundrum for a South African Grand Prix. The images that I've showed you are for very developed first world countries. So let's look at a country like Brazil. The Brazil average salary is roughly $1,500 per month. The dollar to the real is 1 to 5. Okay. Ticket prices for the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix grandstand cheapest $199. Okay. That's close to 2,600, 2,800 Rand, South African Rand. That's basically grandstand, back straight. There we go. Grandstand, the main straight, where I've sat before, by the way, is $1,000. For a country that has the average salary of $1,529 a month, that is a massive amount of money. South African average salary, close to 23,500 Rand. Our US dollar to the Rand, 14 to 1. Now, Brazil is not dissimilar to South Africa. We are both emerging markets. We both have socio-economic challenges. The prices are still very high for a country whose annual wage is relatively low. South Africa has a similar issue. So let's focus on South Africa now. There are two potential options, a Cape Town street circuit and the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. As mentioned, the cost over a 10-year period are pretty similar between running a street circuit or running a purpose-built track. Kyalami, in my opinion, would have to go very minor changes in order for it to be ratified and approved as a Formula One track. Kyalami, in my opinion, is the only option. So, can Formula One host F1? With a few modifications, without a doubt. But how will South Africans react if the Ministry of Sports and Recreation and the Ministry of Tourism allocate potentially 5 to 10 billion Rand to hosting what is still perceived to be an elitist white sport, which is rather ironic as the current world champion is not white, and he's the most successful Formula One racing driver in history. That is another debate. We are a country where millions of people still don't have electricity or running water. This is a valid argument. But Brazil and Mexico have the same challenges. Those naysayers saying that it would be a waste of money are the same people who are not solution orientated, but rather just complainers about most things. I prefer to be the former and find answers. F1 must and should come back to Africa, and specifically South Africa. To be a global sport, you have to be on all of the continents, and this is the only continent where Formula One isn't at present. Government must support it. I mentioned that the F1 Money Report earlier, and it has been proven that if the event is well organized and well understood, by year 3, you will turn a profit for the country. You might be asking, but how can that happen if Formula One owns everything? Here's an answer. 20 teams times roughly 100 personnel or more. You do the maths. FI administrators, 50. Media, between 1 and 2,000 people. International travelers, 50 to 60% of the people at Kyalami would be international travelers. Tourists attending will almost always extend their stay and travel to more parts of the country. The amount of money that will be brought in from abroad and spent in our economy is huge. If Kyalami, and this is hypothetical, can host 100,000 people, and I'm just speculating, at least 60,000 of them will be foreigners with foreign currency. You do the maths. But here is the conundrum. What would tickets to attend a Formula One race in South Africa at Kyalami cost? You've seen the cost in Brazil, Silverstone, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. It is far from cheap, especially with our South African currency where it is. I don't believe that it's going to be much stronger by the year 2023. Government has to step in and help the promoter when it comes to ticket prices. In South Africa, we can go and watch Orlando Pirates play Kaizer Chiefs for as little as 50 Rand a ticket. Imagine paying £2.50 to go and watch Manchester United play against Liverpool. This will become a huge culture shock to South Africans to fork out thousands of rands to go and watch Formula One. But it is something that we're going to have to embrace and understand. In terms of what ticket prices for a Formula One race at Kyalami would be, I have no idea. Okay, but I don't count on them being cheap. I can only work out as to what prices are all over the world. A few weeks ago, I sent both of my kids just on the Friday to go to Zandvoort, not Saturday or Sunday, just on a Friday to go to Zandvoort to watch free practice. They had relatively decent seats, I will be honest. Not fantastic, relatively decent. Those tickets cost me 5,500 Rand for the two of them. All right, that's just Friday. So you must appreciate that tickets are going to be expensive. But here's the conundrum. Before COVID, thousands of South African, hundreds of thousands of South African, and I've been part of them, traveled to Formula One races all over the world, whether it be Australia, whether it be China, whether it be Singapore, whether it be Brazil, whether it be the UK, whether it be Italy, whether it be Germany, you name it, us as South Africans love Formula One and we go. Packages start round about 15,000-20,000 Rand and go up to all the way to 100,000 Rand, depending on what you want and depending on what you can afford. The big question is, would you pay 15 or 20,000 Rand to go and watch a Grand Prix in South Africa? I don't think it'll be that high, but it is something you might need to consider.
This is Formula One.